Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Which One Works. This is a regular series that I do evaluating my own images, walking through different compositions and explaining to you why I feel one image works better than another. Oftentimes it's just the small details that make a difference between an okay image and a great image. And in today's episode, I'm going to focus on some photographs from the area around Bandon, Oregon. I've got a workshop coming up there in March and would love it if you can join. I still have a couple of spots available, so if you'd like to join, check out the link down below in the description. Otherwise, let's dive into the images and see which one works. Okay, let's start off with a very iconic location down in Bandon, and this is down along Bandon Beach. And you can see off in the distance that large rock is called Face Rock, because obviously it sort of looks like a face looking up into the sky. We had a somewhat overcast night when we were down there photographing during my last workshop. And there was just a hint of opening underneath the clouds along the horizon that let the sun come through to create a sun star. And so we had great drama in the skies. We had some beautiful light pop through for just a couple of minutes right at the end of sunset. And so we worked very furiously during this time to capture as many images as we could. So here's the first image that I have, and I like the sky, I like the positioning of the rock here, I like the positioning of these rocks, I have enough separation between the rock and the side of the frame. One little Easter egg that I love is this little bit of illuminated wave, so that looks really, really good. But the discerning factor for me in this image that I'm really looking at is this foam line down here. I typically like to include lines of foam or water motion in the foreground. So having a line of foam oftentimes is a great compositional element for me. So that's why I am considering this as a possible image. But let's go ahead and take a look at the comparison image and decide which one works. So here's the next image. It's just roughly, just a few seconds apart. I captured these really, really close. I'm kind of missing the highlighted wave here, but I see just a little bit of that highlight on that wave right there. Positioning of the rocks is the same. The only difference between these two images is what's happening here in the immediate foreground. I don't have that definitive foam line, but what I have is some wonderful water motion that's leading you out in towards the back of the frame. And I have a couple of static bits of foam that add some solidity and stability to the foreground image. Going back to this first one, the other thing that kind of bothers me about this foam line is the distance between the line and the bottom of the frame. Whenever we have elements, important elements, getting too close to the edge of our frame, it tends to introduce tension into the photograph. And because I'm making a beautiful photograph, I want it to be serene, calm, pleasing, and I really don't want to introduce tension into the photograph. Where if we go to the second photograph, notice I have a lot of space at the bottom of the foreground. It's a really calm entry into the photograph, and then that water motion just takes you back into the scene. And so because of that, this is the one that works better for me than the first image. A little further down the road, there is a place called the Pistol River. It's a river that empties out into the ocean, and there's these beautiful tufts of grass that we'll sometimes stop and photograph down there. And on this day, this was a different day. It was a little bit rainy, but it made for a great overcast, even lighting across the scene. In this first image, what really catches my eye is how much grass is in the foreground. A lot of grass, a lot of texture, and a lot of color in that grass, which is pretty darn cool because it's a great tonal contrast to the sort of gray sky and greenish gray water. So it really, having this much yellow really is kind of cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the comparison image. Not as much grass. So far less yellow in here. Do you like this one better or the first one? I really like the first one because of the grass, but the thing that bothers me about this shot is kind of the middle of this frame, the geographic center of this frame is right here on this mud bank or sand bank. And that's not really a focal point of the image. That's not really what I want people to see. I want them to see the grass, the water, and then going off into the distant cliffs. If I look at the second image, the geographic center of this image is right about here. So it's easier for somebody to transition from the grass to the water and out into the background. And remember, these images are unprocessed, so I know that I can bring out some of the yellow color in the foreground grass. And because of that, I think this image works better for me than this. This has an initial, a higher initial likability because of the grass, but when I really stop to analyze it, this one works better because it transports the viewer a little bit more where I want them to go. Now, one of the things that I do on my Bandon photo workshops is we'll go up to Charleston and visit the fishing harbor up there. And there's a few really wonderful boats that have a lot of character. And so we'll spend time photographing pattern, shapes, textures, and colors up in the harbor. And it is a grand time. And so let me show you a comparison of images from one of my times in the harbor. What attracted me to the bow of this boat was, of course, the really strong lines on the bow and the reflection in the water. So I could create this image of symmetry. I love the symmetry that's happening here in this shot. So I shot this horizontally a couple different ways, and then I shot it vertically. There's the vertical example. So notice in the horizontal example, I get a good breadth of the bow of this boat, a lot of room for this diamond shape to breathe. But what I also get is all of this stuff over here on the side. And because the sky, the reflection of that sky is really bright, it tends to drag my eye over to the right. If I look at the vertical shot, notice that I was able to eliminate all of that stuff on the right. So that's the first bonus. The second bonus is that the line of this bow, this is a vertical design element. And oftentimes I preach and teach that the orientation of your camera should be oriented in a way that really complements your subject or your story. And in this case, that bow line is a key compositional element for me. And so I want to have as much of that line and lengthen it as much as possible. And in that case, the vertical composition works much better for me than the horizontal one does. So this is the winner. This is the one that works. And lastly, heading back down to Bandon Beach. Here's a different night we were there. Still have some great drama in the sky. A little bit different location. My camera's a little bit higher up off the ground. And so we come up with this shot. So this is the first shot. This is the second shot. Notice the difference. So in this shot, face rock and the horizon line, pardon me for that one. This horizon line is a little over a third of the way up into the frame, not quite halfway. If I look at the second one, the horizon line is lower. Okay, that's the first thing to observe. The second thing to observe is look at how much foreground space I have here. I liked the texture of the water and the sand here in this foreground. I do like that texture. I love the reflecting color in that foreground. And when I look at this, I don't have as much of that texture. I still have some reflective color, but I really don't have that texture. Now let's look up at the sky. Notice the sky, really big, really expansive, and that's what I wanted because this sky was wonderfully interesting to me this night. And I wanted to make the sky a strong character in this story. So here's the first shot. Here's the second shot. Let me go back. First shot, second shot. In the second shot, the sky feels more expansive. It feels more enveloping. It feels more dynamic. It feels like it's wrapping around me more so than the first shot does. Okay. Very subtle. But again, oftentimes it's these subtle things that make the difference between a good photograph and a great photograph. And there you go. There's the Bandon edition of Which One Works. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little bit. And I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the images from this beautiful area along the southern Oregon coast. If you'd like to come along with me, I'm heading out there in May. So please feel free to click the link down below and check out some more information for the workshop. If you like this video and don't want to miss any more in the future, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, tickle the bell, do all that kind of good stuff that helps this channel survive. Really appreciate all your love and support, very much so. So all right, folks, have a great day and stay tuned for more videos. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.